Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining our Discord space, and thank you so much, Elijah, for taking out the time to share your story and hopping on our Discord to share amazing learnings from your journey. For anyone who does not know, Elijah is the CEO of Delta Leaf Labs and is also started Cannabis Genome DAO, and which is incentivizing. I always have such struggle with saying that word. Incentivizing open source cannabis research and doing amazing stuff in terms of data sharing in a decentralized manner. So I think one of the first questions, Elijah, I wanted to ask you was, how did you get involved in the crypto space? Why not AI? Why not machine learning? Why did you choose crypto?
That's a good question. So I think I did kind of come at it from a data science background. So my background is in molecular biology. So I went to school for it, got my PhD, started a research lab studying cannabis genomics and developing new technologies for cannabis and diagnostic space. So sort of like on genetic testing to understand more about the plant for growers and consumers. And so we, our whole goal the past 5 years has been to democratize access to that technology. And in that journey, we've been enabling customers to generate a lot of data for themselves. And so, we act as consultants. We don't, our customers retain full ownership of their data. It's kind of like hiring a designer, right? You get the logo at the end. And so when you work with our lab, you get the data, it's yours. And so this has created sort of data silos. And in the effort to, for advanced science and my own research, I've done so many experiments where I know somebody's done it before. There was just no incentive to publish the data, to share the data, whether there was lack of financial incentive, there was publication bias, lack of access to a platform. There's a lot of reasons why information is not shared, or kept secret for a particular for trying to patent something in the future, or whatever reason, right? There was just no incentive to share that data. So with Web3, that sort of changes the model and the opportunity there, where people can they can monetize their own data or share it in whatever way they see fit, while retaining that ownership and that provenance, over the original piece of data, the asset, in the form of usually right now is the paradigm is NFTs, right? Like intellectual property, IP NFTs. And so that's where the Cannabis Genome DAO came from. We spun up, the co-founders of Delta Leaf spun up a nonprofit separate entity last year from the lab, with the goal of empowering the community. So it's a Delaware UNO. We work with FlexDAO to do the legal structuring, and so it's an unincorporated nonprofit. And that's the Cannabis Genome DAO, which is a community to empower anyone with data in the cannabis industry or related to the therapeutic application of cannabis, whether that's a medical researcher, right, a clinician, a cultivator, a producer, someone in the supply chain, right? There's a lot of data associated with that that could be shared and to help advance this, the research forward. And so that's what we're doing with the DAO, trying to have a tokenized data marketplace where there's sort of a small fee that goes back to the DAO. And that funds the community through further development and grants and things like that, and sort of to incentivize participation in that community and the sharing of data as well.
That's amazing. I feel like a lot of people don't understand what is the value in ownership and what is the value in decentralization. So would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's to me, the fundamental part of Web3 is the ability to flip the ownership model or the governance model on its head for so many things that people are interested in, right? To create a community around a protocol or around the idea of sharing data, right? And so the ability to go and show up in something and participate and gain ownership. That's what I kind of talk about, like DAOs is sort of like the gig economy, except instead of working for Uber or Lyft, where you get paid a few bucks an hour, you actually get governance tokens and ownership and ability to control this and participate in direct where the community is going.
Right. Yeah, that's an amazing way to put at it. You recently shared on your Twitter that you decide what you value every day, and you shared that you gave up your position of CEO at Delta Leaf Labs and you want to transition full time, to the Cannabis Genome DAO. So I would love for you to expand on that story.
Yeah, it's been a hard decision, and my journey at Delta Leaf has been extremely rewarding and challenging. Launching a startup bootstrapped. So basically, the lab I started in my home a few years ago, converted a bedroom. Just started doing research there, and then eventually, when I finished grad school, needed to make some money. So we hadn't raised money at that point, so we switched to doing diagnostics. So it's been completely bootstrapped, no investors from the start. And it's been a hard, couple of years to build a biotech company from literally nothing. So it's, there's a lot that can be done with the company, and we're trying to raise money now. And I think me personally, like it's been it's hard to continue pushing forward on new ideas and things like that after so long. And so that's where I think there's a lot of opportunity for new energy to direct the future of Delta Leaf. And frankly, it feels like the natural progression of what should be happening. It's sort of like my goal with this is really honestly to decentralize the lab, decentralize the governance of the lab. So I published a mirror article through Cannabis Genome DAO a few weeks ago, sort of detailing what it would look like for Cannabis Genome DAO to acquire Delta Leaf, for me and for the co-founders to exit to community. So, what the benefits of that would be to align, the community that is generating their own data with the marketplace in which that, they could go and monetize and share that data, and have additional publications and sort of, really just aligning those two groups of people. And so I think because they are overlapping, there's the statement in crypto, not your keys, not your crypto. Well, in not your lab, not your data. So I think that there's the opportunity here to align those and create that that incentive between the lab and the community which is using it, right, in terms of shared governance.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's challenging to. It's been my baby. Delta Leaf is my baby for sure. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into that. It's where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting in the lab, and so even though you can't see the blurry background, but yeah, it's. I think it would be really humbling to have that sort of transition to where I could continue to obviously stay involved, but hopefully bring in more community governance and maybe take a step back personally, because I could. It's been quite a challenge to continue pushing, and hopefully with some new capital and some new people that could things up.
Well, all the best of luck to transition into this new chapter for yourself. How are you dealing with the ambiguity of this space, right? Like, there's so many people who are still so skeptical of cryptos and DAOs so much in general, because they were not the ones. They still have not gone, like mainstream and stuff. And for you to transition your entire career to, a DAO-centric organization, like, how are you feeling about that?
It's been super exciting. I mean, there's been nothing but I've met nothing but awesome people and great contributors across the projects I've been working on in the DAO space over the past year or so. So I really got my footing in the DAO space through Bankless DAO, and that community is just all great vibes and incredible professional contributors. But it's a different environment, and so the ability to open things up to people and to the opportunities that have been opened up for me in the space and the connections I've made. And so that's kind of a lot of what has informed Cannabis Genome DAO is, these connections and ideas that I've learned from others in that space.
That's amazing. What would you say? You shared that your goal in this industry is to empower growers to make the best cannabis. I'd love to know, where does your passion for the cannabis industry come from?
Just personal experience, to be totally honest. I've been a cannabis consumer and advocate for 20 years now. Since my late teen years when I started first found cannabis. It definitely, I had some just as like many teenagers, right? Like all those angsty teenager years, and I think that cannabis really helped me level out a little bit and focus. Honestly, there's this stigma against people where cannabis sort of makes you dissociate, but for me, it really had the opposite, where I would zone in and really get focused on specific projects, and and really get a lot more direction to my career. And went to school for biology, so that kind of with the intention, with the interest generally in that area. Both my parents were nurses, so I kind of always had an interest in medicine and biology, but I didn't have the stomach to be a nurse. So more props to anyone who's actually in medicine. I ended up going down the research path into biology, and into more molecular biology. I worked at Columbia Medical Center in New York for a couple of years. I worked at a fertility clinic in Manhattan. And so I worked in a bunch of different areas in biotech and biomedicine before coming out to grad school in California. And then that's where I've been now. And so towards the end of my PhD, it was there was the bill on the state assembly, I think in California, Prop 64 to legalize recreational cannabis when I was in my final year of my PhD. And I said, this is an opportunity to apply everything I've learned in molecular biology and science to this new industry that I'm passionate about and an advocate for. So I think it was just a combination of different opportunities at the right time where I couldn't not do it.
That's super exciting. I'm super glad that you get to pursue your passion in the industry of your choice. But I'm sure that there's still so much stigma attached to it. What would you just say are some of the cannabis industry problems that you've been facing?
There's definitely still issues with banking. Cannabis industry in general is federally legal in the United States. So even though I live in California and there's a strong regulatory system in place here at the state level, ultimately it is federally legal what I do. Well, not necessarily, because my business doesn't actually handle the plant, but the customers that we work with, the entire industry that we serve is. And so that's we have to be an advocate for them and for what they're building towards, right? Which is access to natural medicines, plant medicines, which is a different paradigm than most Western medicine, but it has gained a lot of traction, I think, in terms of even moving into clinical trials. There's a lot of peer-reviewed research and stuff, and so it's a changing field, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
That's amazing. I know it's been growing exponentially. I've seen so many people investing, even in Shark Tank and stuff, which is very traditional media. You see people coming in, so many startups coming in the cannabis industry. So super exciting for you to start a DAO in this space. Tell me, what were some of the pain points you felt while operating this DAO in terms of onboarding, contribution? How sporadic was it?
Yeah, that's honestly one of the bigger ones too, because we have multiple levels of kind of domain expertise we're trying to bridge to a wider audience, right? One is the cannabis specific space, right? There's a lot of domain knowledge related to that industry alone, but then also the science, right? So it's the cannabis genome, so there's the scientific and the genomic aspect, and just the data science aspect, but then also the crypto Web3 space. So the whole concept of managing a wallet and getting into Discord and making sure you turn off your DMs, get your notifications set up. A lot of people it becomes very overwhelming to hit not just one domain but three, where we're trying to essentially merge a educational path right to participation in this community. So onboarding is a huge challenge, right? How do we get people in to, just to easily use a new technology, and a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to download this new app, I don't want to get in this whatever. There's a lot of friction at various levels, so onboarding has been huge, and that's why honestly we decided to start building with Near Protocol early on, because of their focus on that. And so we're continuing to work and develop sort of a front end that's easy for non-crypto natives to get in and manage a wallet and bridge assets and things sort of behind the scenes, where you're just working with a very simple front end. You don't have to deal with a lot of the technical stuff.
Right. And along the same lines, how are you guys internally doing it? I'm sure there are proposals being floated, and there's so many other functions. How are you guys communicating? How are you managing the systems in there?
For sure. Yeah, it's been a lot of just scattered, honestly, again, trying to get people into the same place and onboard people into the same little tech bubble where people can coalesce, because there is different sort of there's a couple other groups that are working in the cannabis data blockchain space and are working to get different types of cannabis data up. And so we've been working with each of those, trying to make sure that we're not creating additional silos of data in each of our efforts to unsilo data. So there's a lot of these behind the scenes efforts between different groups and trying to coalesce people from different things. So
Right.
that's the main challenge, is just getting everything into one place.
100%. Like, I know how, like, we're really, really in the early days. So, of course, like, things are scattered, things are isolated and all over the place. But that's where also so much leverage is, right? Like, people are not able to figure it out. And people who are completely, like, doing some really, really powerful stuff. Please talk about how are you going about spreading the word, like looking for contributors or looking for admins or looking for community managers? Are you communicating with people on Twitter? Are you doing it on Discord? Like, where are you guys living and existing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess mostly Twitter at this point, because it is still, it's in the early building stages, right? And bringing the people in from the cannabis industry that I think that we're ultimately trying to serve more and expand the network there is requiring having this the tech in place, right? And those onboarding rails, and so that it's been mostly focused on Twitter at this point and other DAO communities, trying to find builders, people who are understand the concept of build now, token later, and retroactive funding for public goods. So that's been a big theme there from from the optimism and Vitalik's work and things like that. So that's kind of where we're focused now, but definitely Instagram has been where the majority of the cannabis industry lives and where Delta Leaf's social media activity and presence is.
Right.
And so that's where we're working there to bridge those.
Exciting. I wanted to see if we have any questions from our community. Right. I don't think we have as of now. Please, guys, if you feel free, like if you guys gotta like ask any questions and stuff, please feel free to drop them in the chat down below. Also, Elijah, what is your perspective on people having a negative connotation on like crypto itself, thinking it's not going to go anywhere? I know we kind of touched upon a little bit on that question, but how is it that you guys are dealing with it one-on-one? Because you have like really kind of bet your life on, in this space. It's not a side hustle. Like, this is something you're pursuing full time.
Yeah, well, luckily, people see the value of it in crypto, because I mentioned earlier one of the challenges, or in cannabis, one of the challenges is banking, right? So the cannabis industry doesn't have banking, and so the crypto industry really presents a solution to that. And so people see the value right away. It just becomes an issue of, okay, how do I actually do this thing? How do I actually understand it and feel secure about it, right, confident that I'm not going to be transferring to the wrong address or unlocking some sort of security that is going to put my whole thing at risk. So that is a lot of it, just the education, the comfortability, getting people to just get those first couple of transactions done, right? Just get into an exchange or understand what a liquidity pool is and staking. So just getting over those first barriers, those first transactions. And I think somebody had a great suggestion recently. It's like, how do you onboard your friend to a DAO? What's the best way to do it? And it was like, okay, issue them a bounty. See if you can get them a bounty issue, get them in there and get them to do it. And then it's just having that first step, getting that first transaction done.
Definitely.
So I think the hurdle. It all comes down to one-on-one at that point.
For sure. I just saw that we do have a question from our community. Naran asks how DeSci is going to be in the future. Any interesting DeSci projects?
Ooh. Yeah, DeSci. I mean, there's so much going on with DeSci. I think the transition from again, that comfortability level of the traditional sort of IP structure of what people are at least know, maybe not even comfortable with either, but they know patents have been around for a while. They know these different copyright paradigms, but then moving to the concept of like dry code and having these things implicit in the structures that we're working with, right? So you may not have a patent on an IP NFT, but if you have a system where you can you can control your own data, you can control who accesses to it, and how it's used. Because of the smart contracts that are built behind it, then having that trust in that system and the understanding of it, and getting people to really just cross that barrier of, okay, this is something new, and sure, maybe this is unproven, but I know that this is going to work. This is a system that I understand. It's kind of a big gap at this point, but moving more scientists into that comfortability range of from the old system to the new system, they can just at least understand it and start working in it and get that first transaction done, that first interaction done. I think is going to be the big unlock from DeSci, is moving people from the traditional world into it.
Definitely. We have a question from Yash asking, how do you work upon to create your community engagement on a daily basis?
Creator and community engagement?
Just your community engaged on a daily basis. All the guys who are a part of your DAO.
Okay. Yeah, daily basis. Just trying to, always just be on Twitter every day. Just get something up on Twitter. Get in the GM channel. Get in the, always be active. That's what I think is the thing. Cannabis Genome DAO is still pretty small, but we, my experience in a few other communities is really that. It's just, just being there every day. And interacting one-on-one, right? That's what it comes down to. Sure, you may be able to throw up a campaign or something like that on Twitter, but ultimately it comes down to responding to people one-on-one and communicating and having those human connections and building the community.
Right. And something really interesting you mentioned, which I feel like a lot of people get stuck in, which is they want tokens to the DAO, right? You said, let's build now and token later. How is it that you're dealing with it? What is your perspective on it? I feel like people have a little bit, the understanding they have is a lot in terms of, compensation, I'm going to buy, it's going to increase in value, I can flip it, but not really the building aspect of it. So what would your thoughts be on that?
I think it's kind of a switch that's, at least I went through, some the people that I've seen kind of go through in building and thinking about Web3 in terms of public goods, and contributing to different projects, especially in DAOs, right? A lot of it ends up being retroactive, right? Bounties, things like that. You go and you do the work and submit it later, and you submit it gets evaluated and you get remunerated later. So sort of switching to that paradigm of providing value first, and contributing to a community, and whatever happens, is evaluated through that lens, is I think a different perspective. And sure, a lot of people come into crypto because of the hype, because of the some NFT that's some drop or some thing. But right now we're in a builders market, and I think it definitely increases the quality and the value of the conversations.
Right. And I think on one of the last notes, I'd love to ask you, what would your advice be for someone who's wanting to understand DAOs better? How is it that they can really, really leverage this space? Just get in there, get into a chat, I think find a DAO that has a good onboarding system. You can get involved, you can get those first bounties, done. You can participate in something meaningfully. And so that's really where I think it is. I've had plenty of people come into the Cannabis Genome DAO, for example, and they're like, okay, what jobs are available? I'm like, you tell me. This is a community effort. Here's the docs. Here's the information we're working on, and tell me what you want to do. Yeah.
And so I think it's a different mindset coming into DAOs, really having that put on it's up to you to figure out where you fit and what you can contribute to, and if you're not sure, then just keep digging and keep showing up to those meetings.
Right. And what was one of the best places where you really got educated on DAOs? Was it a specific newsletter? Was it a YouTube channel? Was it I don't think there's a book on it, but any specific resources?
But again, Bank with DAO was, I think, my real foothold into the DAO space.
Right.
Been involved with Bank with DAO since last summer, and so it's almost a year now. It was I think August or September that I really started diving in and getting involved, and that was just just hop into the guild chats, and just hop into the weekly calls and introduce yourself and the background, and eventually I got involved in the marketing guild, which led me to another project, and the Crypto Sapiens, and so I've been working on Crypto Sapiens now since September of last year. October, and it's been one of my main ways to just learn about how to interact and participate in a ever evolving community that's constantly redefining itself.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's like one of the best advices we get is just get in there, right? Like you'll be confused. Everyone's confused in the beginning. And the amazing thing about Web3 community is the community aspect of it, right? Like if you ever feel stuck, if you ever feel blocked, you can always like just jump on Twitter and ask questions, and there'll always be people who'd love to respond. So thank you so much, Elijah, for doing this and sharing this. Any ending thoughts, anything that you'd like to share on your end?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat. It's been great to connect with you and learn more about DaoLens as well.